We've all been there. That deadline looms. The clock ticks relentlessly, each second a reminder of the work that remains undone. Yet instead of diving into the task at hand, we find ourselves drifting away, our minds wandering to anything but the pressing matter. We might start organizing our sock drawer, meticulously pairing each sock, finding satisfaction in the simple, mundane task. It's as if the act of organizing something trivial gives us a false sense of accomplishment, a temporary escape from the real work. Or we might become suddenly engrossed in the history of paperclips, diving deep into a rabbit hole of information that has no bearing on our immediate responsibilities. It's curious how our brains latch onto these distractions, almost as if they're a refuge from the stress of our actual tasks. Procrastination, the art of delaying tasks, is a universal human experience. It's something that transcends cultures, ages, and professions. Whether you're a student, a professional, or a homemaker, the urge to put off important tasks is a common struggle. It's a puzzle that has baffled philosophers and psychologists for centuries. Ancient texts and modern studies alike have tried to unravel the reasons behind this self-sabotaging behavior. Why do we delay what we know needs to be done? Why do we sabotage our own productivity? It's a question that digs deep into the human psyche. Is it fear of failure, fear of success, or perhaps a deeper, more complex interplay of emotions and thoughts that we haven't fully understood yet? Why do we choose to do the easier, less important tasks instead of the crucial ones? It's almost as if our brains are wired to seek out the path of least resistance, to find comfort in the familiar and the easy, even if it means delaying the inevitable. Procrastination isn't simply about laziness or poor time management. It's a multifaceted issue that involves our emotions, our motivations, and even our brain chemistry. It's not just about putting things off, it's about what drives us to do so. It's a complex interplay of emotions, motivations, and even brain chemistry. Studies have shown that procrastination is linked to our brain's reward system, where immediate rewards are often more enticing than long-term gains. This is why we might choose a quick, easy task over a more challenging yet important one. Understanding the psychology behind procrastination is the first step to overcoming it. By recognizing the triggers and patterns that lead us to procrastinate, we can start to develop strategies to counteract them. By exploring the science, identifying our procrastination style, and implementing practical strategies, we can begin to take control of our time and our tasks. Simple techniques like breaking tasks into smaller steps, setting specific goals, and rewarding ourselves for progress can make a significant difference. We can break free from the shackles of procrastination. It's not an overnight change, but with consistent effort and the right strategies, we can transform our habits and our mindset. We can unlock our true potential and achieve our goals. The journey to overcoming procrastination is a personal one, but it's a journey worth taking. By understanding ourselves better and applying the right techniques, we can turn procrastination from a stumbling block into a stepping stone towards success. Procrastination is more than just putting things off. It's a deliberate choice to delay a task despite knowing it might have negative consequences. We choose to binge watch a show instead of finishing that important presentation. We scroll through social media when we should be studying for an exam. This delay tactic often leads to feelings of guilt, stress, and anxiety. It can harm our work quality, relationships, and even our self-esteem. But knowing it's bad for us doesn't make it any easier to resist. Understanding why we procrastinate requires delving into the fascinating world of our brains. Deep within our skulls lies the answer to the procrastination puzzle. Our brains are wired for immediate gratification. The limbic system, the emotional center of our brain, craves instant rewards and seeks to avoid pain or discomfort. When faced with a challenging task, the limbic system sounds the alarm. It tells us it's hard, boring, or potentially going to make us feel bad. Enter the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of our brain responsible for planning, decision-making, and impulse control. It knows we should tackle that task. However, the limbic system often wins out. We end up procrastinating because it makes us feel better in the short term, even if it hurts us in the long run. Section 4. Decoding the procrastinator types. Not all procrastinators are created equal. In fact, the way we procrastinate can tell us a lot about our personalities, our fears, and our motivations. By understanding the different types of procrastinators, we can better address the root causes of our delay tactics and find more effective ways to overcome them. Just like there are different learning styles, we also procrastinate in unique ways. Some people might find themselves constantly distracted, while others might be paralyzed by the fear of not doing a task perfectly. Recognizing these patterns is the first step towards managing procrastination effectively. Understanding our procrastination personality can be incredibly helpful in finding the right strategies to combat it. Self-reflection is key here. By taking the time to analyze our behavior, we can identify the specific reasons why we procrastinate and tailor our approach to address those reasons directly. The perfectionist. Driven by a fear of failure, they'd rather not do something at all than do it imperfectly. This type of procrastinator often sets impossibly high standards for themselves, which can lead to a cycle of inaction. They might spend hours organizing their workspace or planning their tasks, but when it comes to actually doing the work, they freeze up. They get caught in the loop of planning and researching, never feeling quite ready to start. This endless preparation can be a way to avoid the actual task, as starting it means facing the possibility of not meeting their own high expectations. To break this cycle, perfectionists need to learn to set more realistic goals and accept that making mistakes is a part of the learning process. The avoider. These procrastinators avoid tasks that generate negative emotions like anxiety or boredom. They might put off starting a project because they fear it will be too difficult, or because they simply find it uninteresting. This avoidance can lead to a buildup of stress as deadlines approach, making the task even more daunting. They might fear judgment or dislike the task so much they'll do anything to avoid it. This can include engaging in distracting activities that provide temporary relief from their anxiety, but ultimately lead to more stress in the long run. To combat this, avoiders need to find ways to make the task more manageable, such as breaking it down into smaller steps or finding aspects of the task that they can enjoy. The thrill seeker. This type thrives on the adrenaline rush of a last-minute push. They often believe that they work best under pressure and intentionally delay starting a task until the deadline is looming. While this can sometimes lead to bursts of productivity, it also increases the risk of errors and can be incredibly stressful. They procrastinate to feel the excitement of working under pressure, even if it leads to unnecessary stress. Thrill seekers need to recognize that while the adrenaline rush can be motivating, it's not a sustainable way to work. Developing a more consistent work routine can help them achieve their goals without the last-minute panic. Identifying our procrastination style allows us to understand the underlying motivations and fears that drive our delay tactics. This self-awareness is the first step towards change. By knowing why we procrastinate, we can start to develop strategies that address these specific issues, rather than trying to apply a one-size-fits-all solution. This self-awareness is crucial for developing targeted strategies for overcoming procrastination. Whether it's setting more realistic goals, breaking tasks into smaller steps, or creating a more consistent work routine, understanding our procrastination style can help us find the most effective ways to stay on track and achieve our goals. By taking the time to reflect on our habits and make conscious changes, we can transform procrastination from a barrier into a stepping stone towards success. Section 5. The psychology behind the delay. Procrastination isn't just about being lazy or disorganized. It's a complex behavior that often masks deeper psychological issues. Many people think that procrastination is simply a matter of poor time management or lack of discipline, but it's much more intricate than that. It's often a symptom of deeper psychological triggers that we might not even be aware of. These triggers can be subtle and deeply ingrained in our psyche, making them difficult to identify and address. They can manifest in various ways, affecting our ability to focus, make decisions, and take action. These triggers can be rooted in our thoughts, emotions, and even our past experiences. For instance, a negative experience from childhood, such as being criticized for making mistakes, can create a fear of failure that persists into adulthood. This fear can be so overwhelming that it prevents us from even starting a task as we anticipate the possibility of failure. Fear of failure. The dread of not measuring up can be paralyzing. This fear is often irrational but feels very real. It can lead to a cycle of avoidance where we put off tasks to avoid the discomfort of potential failure. Over time, this avoidance can become a habit, making it even harder to break free from procrastination. We avoid starting a task because we're afraid of failing, disappointing ourselves or others. This fear can be compounded by perfectionism, where we set unrealistically high standards for ourselves. When we believe that anything less than perfect is unacceptable, the pressure to perform can be so intense that we become paralyzed and unable to take action. Lack of motivation. When we don't find a task interesting or meaningful, it's hard to muster the enthusiasm to get started. This lack of motivation can stem from various sources, such as feeling disconnected from the task's purpose or not seeing the value in completing it. Without a clear sense of why the task matters, it becomes easy to put it off in favor of more enjoyable activities. It's hard to muster the enthusiasm to get started. This is especially true for tasks that are repetitive or mundane, as they can feel like a chore rather than a meaningful endeavor. When we lack intrinsic motivation, we may rely on external rewards or deadlines to push us into action, but these can only go so far in sustaining our effort. We end up procrastinating because we simply don't feel like doing it. This can lead to a vicious cycle, where the more we procrastinate, the more daunting the task becomes. As the deadline approaches, the pressure mounts, and the task can start to feel insurmountable. This can further erode our motivation and make it even harder to get started. Decision fatigue. Our brains have limited willpower. Throughout the day, we make countless decisions, both big and small. Each decision depletes our mental energy, making it harder to make good choices as the day goes on. This phenomenon, known as decision fatigue, can lead to procrastination, as we become overwhelmed by the sheer number of choices we need to make. When we're bombarded with decisions all day, it becomes harder to make good choices. This can be particularly challenging when we face complex or high-stakes decisions, as the mental effort required can be exhausting. As a result, we may delay making decisions or avoid tasks that require significant cognitive effort, opting instead for easier, less demanding activities. We procrastinate on tasks that require effort because our decision-making energy is depleted. This depletion can make even simple tasks feel overwhelming, leading us to put them off until we feel more capable. However, this can create a backlog of tasks that only adds to our stress and anxiety, perpetuating the cycle of procrastination. By recognizing these psychological triggers, we can start to challenge the negative thought patterns and self-doubt that fuel our procrastination. This awareness is the first step towards breaking the cycle. Techniques such as cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, can be effective in identifying and addressing these underlying issues, helping us to develop healthier coping mechanisms. We can develop healthier coping mechanisms and build resilience to face those challenging tasks head-on. By setting realistic goals, breaking tasks into manageable steps, and rewarding ourselves for progress, we can gradually overcome procrastination. Building resilience also involves practicing self-compassion and understanding that it's okay to make mistakes. With time and effort, we can learn to approach tasks with confidence and a positive mindset, ultimately leading to greater productivity and fulfillment.